Our postseason of losing years off of our lives and hair-pulling frustrations is finally at its winding point. Let's just say it's been interesting. Will we finally see bland narratives crushed to bits, or will the memes live on for another year? How'd everyone stack up? So it turns out it wasn't the absolute ass-kicking that most people were expecting it to be. Far from it, to be honest. The unfortunate thing is that they weren't at full strength with Varlamov and Johnson out. They just didn't have the guns to keep up with the Preds. Maybe they could have pulled off the series with them, but it was just not meant to be. You were the weakest team in the playoffs this year, although I will say this. You guys have turned a lot of heads. Be proud of your team. Nashville may have made an example of you in Game 6, but the Avs will be back. Once again, what a difference a year makes. We gather here today to mourn the death of the Minnesota Wild, a team that went into the postseason all but dead on arrival. In fact, the hockey gods deemed that you hadn't suffered enough, so they struck down Zach Parise as well. You could barely survive one, but two of your best players out for the series was a death blow. Even if the Jets hadn't won a playoff game until this point, they sucked out all of your life and willpower like a Hoover. They thrived off of your pain. The rest of the team? What the hell did they go off to anyway? Thinking about the golf course early, I assume. Regardless, this may have been their last legitimate shot with this score. Chuck Fletcher has paid the price for this postseason ineptitude with his job. You are the Blues of the North. Enjoy your misery. The aging king was poisoned by his trusty knight for a slow and painful death. Congratulations, Los Angeles. You are the first group to be swept by an expansion team in the playoffs. Not to say that you were embarrassed. Jonathan Quick was a beast. Unfortunately, nobody else got the memo that it was the postseason. The offense dissipated into gaseous fumes as the Kings tried to push around Vegas. They responded in kind. The Knights didn't just beat you guys, they beat you at your own game. You couldn't match their speed and were burned as a result. How's that nice helping of karma taste, Mr. Dowdy? Be comforted, though. You didn't suffer the fate your neighbors did. What in the literal fuck was that supposed to be? Wasn't this supposed to be some sort of series? It's like you guys blew your load late in the season and failed to do dickety shit come April. It wasn't even domination. What the Sharks did to you was what happened to vassals that defied the Great Khan. You were made an example of. Your cities were burned to the ground, your population slaughtered, and their carcasses sent to the four corners of the earth as a warning to all those that would defy them. When you bothered to show up, it was far too late. The damage was done. 4 goals all series? Are you fucking kidding me? Even your parents would disown you after such a performance. This is what you get when you bring in a retread of a coach in the hopes of reliving the glory years. You can wipe your tears away on some delicious duck confit. This is a bit of a dud. I expected you to give the Lightning a scare with your youth and speed. Unfortunately, the Lightning matched you at every turn. It was like watching the haves versus the have-nots of hockey. On one side, there was a goaltender. On the other, Keith Kincaid's renting of Marty's powers lapsed and he turned into sheep dung. On one side, there was death. On the other, it was given the electric chair. Not even Taylor Hall or Corey Schneider standing on his head could save you this time. Welcome back to the postseason, Jersey. Your tea time awaits you. I heard all you guys bitching about how I didn't give Toronto a chance this year, about how I was so wrong with my analysis of them. Was I really? It was quite obvious to anyone with eyes that the Bruins were the far superior team. In fact, the Maple Leafs did everything in their power to lose this series. Nazem Kadri made Brad Marchand look sympathetic in comparison. Their golden god Austin Matthews turned himself into stone and failed to make an impact. You could make the argument that Boston's most valuable players were Jake Gardiner and Nikita Zaitsev. As inconsistent as he was, Freddie Anderson was the only reason this series went to 7 games. He got no help from the rest of his squad. He deserved better than this. That team defense especially should hang their heads in shame. There is something to be said about giving your fan base the taste of playoff success, then ripping it away from them just as they reach for it. You had the Capitals by the throat. You fucking had them. Yet you could never finish them off. Washington wins 4 straight and the Jackets fail to win a playoff series once again. Next time, tune in as Columbus learns not to take a fucking penalty or not give up more than 3 goals per game. That so-called scoring depth they had dissolved in acid and they simply chucked pucks at Holtby. Any chance of you not being laughed at is gone. You are now the least successful franchise in the NHL. Here is your trophy. Save it, I know exactly what you're going to say. Bitch, you had bigger problems than goaltending or officiating to deal with. The team defense was on a metric scale between shit and abysmal. That vaunted pair of Giroux and Dvorak all but turned into ghosts. The Lumberjack inadvertently cut down your first line center. And he still outperformed the rest of the team. That player you say fucking sucks? He ran carte blanche on your asses. Crosby owns your city like the British did during the colonial era. You were outplayed, outmanned, outwitted, outgunned, outfought, and outcoached. As a rival, I beg you, please keep that lifeless bore of a coach you have. It's fun to see your team deal with failed potential and shit goaltending. Your performance may have saved his job too. Well done. It is in these times when the catfish overthrow their yellow-dawning oppressors and usurp power. They do this while being victimized by the almighty whiteout. Let's not lie to ourselves, the Preds looked flat and sluggish all postseason long. They had trouble taking out the goddamn Avs, yet then came the X-Factor. His name living on in the annals of memedom for generations, Pekka Rinne. Yes, my friends, we can safely say that he is too good right now. Far too good to make a routine save or not get pulled on home ice. Here's an idea. Instead of saying the other goaltender sucks in a chant, look inward and see how Roman Josi and Ryan Ellis fell to shit. Kill those chants with scorching fire. It was cute last year. Now it's fucking cancerous. I knew you were going to find a way to break my heart. Losing to a fucking expansion team when you were looking like a cup contender, a very shameful display. I don't care if this was the best expansion team in NHL history, there is no excuse for the team having no answer for their speed or flubbing on prime scoring chances. By the way, I hope you enjoyed that little surprise I had for you. That repression has been years in the making. Let this finally be an end to this era of miserable failure. Jumbo Joe, thank you for your service, but your knee is foobar. Enjoy the retirement tour. Oh, thank God I don't have to pretend that I like this team anymore. The Bruins, once looking like a surefire cup contender, promptly chose to ignore all pretenses and lay a wet turd on the ice for 4 straight games. This action was personified by Brad Marchand, from what I could tell, unleashing repressed homoerotic urges. It's okay, Boston, you guys can just blame the officials. It's obviously their fault that the Bruins returned to being a one-line team and Tampa outperformed you in every way. Cry me a fucking river. You can bitch with Edmonton and Toronto in the back. I never thought that I would be livid at a back-to-back Stanley Cup champion. There was truly a first time for everything. What I saw was not a team with swagger, but a team that was paranoid about the voices in their head. The majority of the team shit the bed, but I can truly point the finger at a few key figures. Derek Brassard, Phil Kessel, and Chris Letang. That so-called depth chose to become liabilities at best throughout the series. At least Brassard and Kessel were injured. What the fuck is your excuse, Letang? This guy near single-handedly cost the team 2 games. If the Valley Girl is not fired into the fucking sun this offseason, then I'm going to rage harder than an entitled twat in a Starbucks line. Washington didn't fuck up, and they earned this series win. You killed off the memes. Stale, overused memes. Leave me to mourn their loss. Before you is a team that experienced more success than they could fathom, controlled the majority of play, yet still got their asses handed on a platter. We call that rolling snake eyes. Despite player advantage, the Jets were grossly outplayed where it really mattered, on the bench and between the pipes. The American dream known as Connor Hellebuck ran out of fuel just before the tarmac, thus spiraling to the ground in a fiery wreck. The whiteout in the true north dissipates for yet another summer of discontent. Regardless, you've made it farther than Winnipeg has ever seen them go. They've accomplished basic steps of franchise competency like winning a playoff series and advancing to the 3rd round. The Atlanta stench is being cleansed. Showering for the next few years should kill it off fully. I can safely say you fuckers deserve every morsel of bile and vitriol that is coming your way. Way to fuck up a Cup Finals appearance placed on a tee, you underachieving pieces of shit. All of that noise you made before the playoffs results in you becoming the laughingstock of the league. Let's not lie to ourselves. You choked. You choked just like every other fucking year you've had in this window. Not even sniffing the back of the net in over 2.5 games, that's choking. Blowing the series when you were favorites to win it, that's choking. Flubbing on gimme goals right in front of the fucking net, that's textbook choking. The baton has officially been passed. You are the new Washington Capitals. Failures and underachievers in every sense of the word. Hey, maybe we can try and find Stamkos at even strength or Kucherov's ability to give a damn in this mess eventually. Last time I'd buy into your hype, you pathetic fucks. The killing fields are strewn with the blood and guts of the fallen. The final 2 contestants have emerged to compete for the holy grail of sports, coming out of the dust of the West. This is me. And this is the gigantic pile of shit I'm about to eat on the Golden Knights once again.
That is one big pile of shit.
Now my body matches these videos. Full of shit. At first, we merely thought this would be a brief stretch after the Vegas shooting. They're going off of momentum. They keep winning. There's no way they're going to keep this up, though. I made a video on them, which is apparently the ultimate jinx on a team's success. They keep winning. The playoffs will expose them, though. The Kings are old vets and primed for another Cinderella run. They keep winning. The Sharks, though, are a true contender. All the pieces are lining up for them to win their first cup. They keep winning. Now the Jets, they are the great ones. They are a team of destiny, taking out the Preds and have a Vezina-caliber goalie in net. Oh yes, my friends, they keep winning. They are the furthest thing from a fluke imaginable. The Knights are a well-oiled machine that stops for nothing. They do not care for your petty feel-good stories and years of hardship. The drums of war and cringe-worthy opening spectacles sound throughout the deep. Think about it for a second. In one goddamn year, the Knights have done what the Maple Leafs haven't done in 50 years, the Blues in almost 50 years, and the Blue Jackets, Coyotes, and Jets in their entire existence. Make the Stanley Cup final. In fact, they're the first expansion team to make the final since the aforementioned Blues in 1968. That team was in a watered-down conference with 5 other expansion teams and only played 2 rounds of playoff hockey. The Knights have no such asterisk. They have dismantled everything that has been thrown at them. They are a team in every sense of the word. Players cast off from other squads either due to misuse, cap restraints, age, or, in the case of Florida, gross incompetence in a regime and philosophy change. To be fair, nobody saw this coming. This was supposed to be their tank year. That's why they acquired shit tons of draft capital and maximized cap space in the expansion draft, to make noise 5 years down the road. But to imagine this 11 months ago, you would have been out of your goddamn mind. Even their owner expected them to struggle. The only way you saw them making the cup finals was if you either had a DeLorean or were a liar. Safe to say I have embraced the Knights. I love this team. No, it's not because of Marc-Andre Fleury playing like a living god or that potent first line or the likability of the players in depth. It's because they are a shitposter's wet dream. They have effectively triggered the entirety of Canada. Because they have a chance to do what a Canadian team hasn't done in 25 years has brought out all of the traditionalists and fanboys of NHL fanbases everywhere. History has been revised. The expansion draft was apparently OP and needed to be nerfed in a patch. The fix is allegedly in. They were gifted stars. Bettman rigged everything so that they would win. Listen, just because your teams are incompetently run shitholes that stubbornly cling on to outdated ideals isn't grounds for jealousy. There's a reason a lot of my hockey bits this year have been on Canadian teams, you know. Shit ownership and shit management. Vegas just capitalized on the idiocy of GMs looking for immediate relief on the terrible contracts they signed. The Knights don't have any of these albatrosses. They are fresh, and that may have been what allowed them to make it here. As for the East, who emerges from the rubble? Congratulations, your team finally made it past the second round of the playoffs. In fact, you guys did yourselves one further and sped past the third round in Ovi's first try as well. I know it's easy to laugh at the Capitals and their years upon years of failure, but if you saw the team this postseason, these are not the full Capitals of old. This team has mental resilience, they have tenacity, they have fortitude. They don't buckle under adversity anymore. Look at what happened against Columbus. Down 2 games after losing back-to-back overtime losses at home. Would be the end of them, right? Washington winning 4 straight in convincing fashion would say otherwise. Their boogeyman took them out after a 2-goal deficit in Game 1 as well. Unlike previous years, they do not crumble and finally slay the dragon. As for the Lightning, there was no chance for them, they said. They were choking again, they said. They lost 3 straight and had no momentum, they said. Well, look at them now. Besides their torrid power play, which needs no explanation as to why it dominates everything in their path, the style that the Caps play is very similar to a trap. Or should I say a trap on steroids. They rely on a punishing and opportunistic counterattack. However, the opposing goaltender now has to deal with high-end talent like Kuznetsov, Backstrom, Carlson, Oshie, and Ovechkin charging towards them. Yes, Alex Ovechkin, one of the greatest goal scorers of this generation. Every time he sits around near the left circle, you know he's just going to rip one of his legendary howitzers on the one time. He has played with a fire that we haven't seen in a long, long time. He's taken all of the unwarranted criticism by the pundits, all of the labels of choking, all of the frustrations and agony, and has grown wings. Nothing will stop him. He stomps on his enemies while Kuznetsov does that cheesy-ass bird flap. Although Ovi has always had the choker label on him, there is solace. There was another great that also donned this profile, Steve Yzerman. For many years, Yzerman and the Red Wings either suffered humiliating defeats in the postseason or came up short against stronger teams. Yzerman was the whipping